Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to talk about Stellantis wanting to keep the Hemi V8 in production, but Tavares didn't. There was an article wrote over at CNBC that had a bunch of quotes from people inside the company. It was very interesting. Mind you, these people are kept as basically sources, anonymous sources, but it's pretty interesting hearing what the company, the dealers, and stuff are saying to the mainstream media. We've heard several things over the past year and a half about dealers being upset and people in the company and the morale being all shot to heck, and just a lot of different things going on, and that a lot of people were upset, including its fan base, about the Hemi going away. But according to these new sources, Tavares, it's not nothing new that Tavares did not want to pay the emissions credits, buy the emissions credits from Tesla to continue to pay for the Hemi V8 program. So basically, everybody kind of knows that for the past several years, if it wasn't for Tesla, we wouldn't have a Hemi V8. So what Stellantis was doing was paying billions of dollars to buy emissions credits from Tesla to help pay off their emissions debt for this Hemi V8 program. And it worked, because obviously they wouldn't do it if they weren't making a ton of money. So when Tavares came into the picture, he decided, hey, we're going to do away with the Hemi. But the problem was, if we move back to looking forward, what my sources have said for a long time was, before Stellantis came into play, when it was FCA actually started development of the 3-liter Hurricane inline 6, the twin turbo motor, back in 2013, late 2013. And the development of that motor was the reason why that motor was coming into play was to replace the aging 5.7 Hemi and the 6.4. Not the Hellcat motor, not the Red Eye / Demon motor. It was to replace the naturally aspirated 5.7 and 6.4 engines. So move back to today, and it's replacing those engines. However, the Hellcat engines are gone. And the problem with that being said is there's no replacement for the Hellcat engines. So instead, we're looking more at EVs. And what this really does is these little quotes kind of open up to the kind of person, how the company and how the dealers really felt about Tavares and his decisions, and why Tavares said, well, I don't understand the North American market, openly, and was fine with it. So let's go through and read a couple of these. And you can read the whole article over at Mopar Insiders, and it has a link to the CNBC one, which is actually really long, and it kind of goes on different tangents. This article is just based on the Hemi V8, not the entire company. So the first quote I'm going to say it says that everybody wanted to keep the Hemi. Engineers, marketers, and even executives in the U.S. knew how important it was for our customers, but Tavares didn't want to hear it. He was fixated on cutting emissions and improving margins. It's basically what we knew, right? The interesting thing is, if you watch Butter the Insider on YouTube here, you probably seen he had a video, and I was actually on that marketing call. It was or not marketing call, but it was an investors call, with Tim Kuniskis was talking about the future products of the Ram brand. Him and Chris Fuel were talking about Chrysler, and he was talking about Dodge and Ram. So what they were doing was they were talking to investors, and he was talking about how his hands were tied behind his back when Tavares didn't want to buy emissions credits anymore. And what that did was it pushed them to, push the Hurricane motor into these trucks even faster, and basically, they didn't have, he said that they wouldn't have never pushed for the Hurricane to be in the pickups, especially if the Hemi was still around. So it was pretty interesting hearing that quote, but we kind of that was just 2 months before Tim Kuniskis announced that he was retiring. So we knew there was some kind of turmoil going on in the company between him and probably Tavares, but it's interesting to hear what the other people inside the company are. So here we're hearing that engineering, marketing teams, and even the executives, which is Kuniskis was, also knew how important it was for their customers, but Tavares didn't want to hear it. So he was too busy fixated on the cost-cutting aspects. Another thing that if you know anything about what's going on at Stellantis for like the past since 2021. In 2021, they had their EV Day. It was part of like this huge kind of presentation that they showed what their plans were for up until 2030. And what their plan for 2030 was that by 2030, 100% of the European market was going to be EV, and over 50% of the North American market was going to be EV. And they planned on achieving double-digit profit margins, and they were going to, comply with stricter global emissions and all this stuff, right? Well, one person said that Tavares didn't want to keep buying emissions credits from Tesla, and he saw the Hemi as an unnecessary liability. But removing it without fully prepared replacements alienated a lot of their customers. And that's true. We've seen it at the dealerships. No one's buying product now. So, yeah, it's sad, but that's the honest to God's truth. And the interesting thing is, it's not just the Hemi. This whole Dare Forward 2030 plan is actually kind of crazy because his plan for 100% EV production in Europe has actually worked against them, because in the last year, a lot of people have said, hey, we're not buying EVs anymore. A lot of people don't want EVs because they're super expensive over there, and they want hybrids. And just for an example, they are spending $110 million on revamping the Fiat 500e. The Fiat 500e was launched on a multi-energy platform, but the problem is they launched it as an all-electric vehicle. Now, keep in mind, this vehicle just came to North America this summer. Or actually, this spring. And right now, in North America, it's the second worst selling vehicle in the U.S. And the funny thing is probably at the end of this month, it'll probably be back to number one. So, with that being said, they're spending $110 million to shove a 1-liter hybrid engine into this thing so that it will go on sale and be a hybrid vehicle now. The weird thing about that is today on Mopar Insiders, this very first thing that's going to be posted this morning is an article about the plant that it's built at. Is actually, it's been production's been suspended for like the last 2 months, and before that, all summer it was on and off, on and off. Well, now it's being held up again. It's being halted again until January 20th. That's how poor the sales are. So when you see EV sales being really poor, and then what's Tavares going to do? I'm going to bring in Leapmotor, a Chinese startup brand, as like the 15th brand, and actually compete against my products that I'm already having a struggle. It shows that he didn't know much about the European market anyways. But over there, there's a big push for hybrids and stuff. And here, obviously we know how the EV market is here. You've seen the pushback against like this new Charger Daytona. The Charger Daytona is actually a really nice car. It's a very nice car. Performance-wise, it's amazing. It will. People keep complaining that the Ioniq N is faster than it by a tenth of a second, but this car is a full-size car. It looks nothing like that boring piece of crap from Korea, and yet this thing will do pretty much anything. It will smoke anything that was not a red eye or a demon on the road. I mean, it is fast. But the problem is we don't have the infrastructure and the cost. $85,000 for a fully loaded Scat Pack. $85K. So that's the problem that we're seeing with this, and that's why people don't want this, the EV stuff. And if the infrastructure was there and the cost was down, I bet you a lot of people would be happy with it. But the problem is people don't want EVs. Simply, they want their V8 performance cars. They're more budget friendly. It has that, thing that they have, like that personality that they grew up with, that sound, the fact that it's a V8. And Ford and GM have already said, hey, we're not going to build as many EVs anymore. We're going to, continue on with our V8 programs. GM they announced last year that they're putting $1 billion into a new small block V8 program for their trucks and certain cars. So while the other brands have said it officially, Stellantis hasn't, and it just has made everything go down. Like, between sales, their stock price, morale at the company, everything's been on a downward spiral. So now we're starting to see what the real causes were. And it's kind of funny because we're seeing comments from people within the company actually saying things publicly. Yeah, they're not being quoted in here, like actually quoted as their names. But it's pretty interesting to hear how things were going behind closed doors. Somebody also said that because the U.S. market is Stellantis' largest and most profitable market, they said if you're selling performance vehicles in America, you need a V8. So that was pretty interesting. Now, we know how bad the dealers were with Tavares. They sent him a letter to say about how disappointed they were with him and how they hated his management style and that they wanted change. And he came out against the dealers and stuff like that, and he ticked off a lot of people. So, anyways, what we're seeing now is some of the dealers are coming out and actually saying things about what the Hemi V8 being gone from their showrooms is really doing. And one Dodge dealer remarked that the Hemi was the selling point. It brought people into the showrooms. Customers didn't want a turbocharged six-cylinder as a replacement for a roaring V8. So, yeah, that has a lot to do with it. They also quoted some fans on social media in the article, which this is a quote from somebody posting on Dodge's social media thing. It said, "The Hemi isn't just an engine, it's a legacy. Stellantis is throwing away what makes their cars special." So, yeah, we've seen the market for Stellantis in the first 9 months. Their overall global sales was down 17%. The absence of the Hemi vehicles, the rising prices on all these cars, and their adoption of EVs instead of what people want is really making a huge downward spiral for all the brands. So it's going to be very interesting. So even though they brought Tim Kuniskis back, it doesn't mean that the Hemi's coming back overnight. So one person said that bringing back Kuniskis is a signal. It shows Stellantis understands the importance of performance in their lineup, but whether it's too late to bring back the Hemi is anyone's guess. So with that being said, they have all the tooling. They could bring the Hemi back. It would be easy to put that stuff in like here we have the Rubicon 392. You could easily do that because it's already been developed. That vehicle's still on the market. The Ram 1500, you could do that for that. No problem. I would love to see a 6.4 come into the Ram 1500 instead of the 5.7. Put the 6.4 in it like it needed to be originally. Put the 6.4 in the Wagoneer, in Grand Wagoneer. It wasn't already in the Grand Wagoneer. Why not put it in the Wagoneer? They could do stuff like that. The problem is you're going to see the one main thing you're going to see is it coming to the Charger? Not by any time soon. And the reason why is that car was developed to around the Hurricane engine and the EDMs, meaning the electronic drive modules or electric drive modules. So what they're going to have to do is just like the 500e, they're going to have to spend a couple, maybe $100 million to take and go and redevelop what's underneath the hood of that car. Because according to my sources, the strut towers sit 2 inches too far in board to actually have a Hemi fit. So what they're going to have to do is redesign it. It's going to have to go be re-engineered. So basically it's going to have to go through development time to make sure that it can do everything that it did before. And honestly, by the time we see a Hemi come into a Charger, if it does pass, it probably will be with the mid-cycle refresh of the new Charger. So we're looking at probably 2027, 2028 at the earliest. It's not going to be an overnight thing. And unfortunately, because of Carlos Tavares, this has happened. So, is it a good thing, we've been hearing all these rumors, is it a good thing that, people like Kuniskis and stuff are back? Yeah. Is it going to be, an overnight change? No. I don't think we're going to start seeing changes. I think everybody's kind of there trying to put out fires and try to get everything ready for whoever this new CEO is going to be. So we're going to get a new CEO by Q1, or not Q1, but at the end of Q1 2025. So probably by April. This new CEO, which we're hoping will be more of an American-based CEO. I'm hoping it won't be a French CEO again. Will hopefully come in and start saying, hey, this is what we need to do to build up our customer base again. We need to bring products back and refocus on these high prices and start building vehicles that are more affordable and with product that people want. So it'll be very interesting, but right now I wouldn't count on a Hemi product a Hemi Charger coming anytime soon. It's going to take some time. They've already announced this investment of $110 million this summer for the Fiat 500e, and that thing won't be hitting the market until 2026. So keep that in mind. So stay tuned. Things are changing. It seems like every day we're hearing different things. There's a lot of exciting stuff coming around with Kniskus being back, and with Tavares being gone, and it seems like Antonio Filosa is getting things going, like cutting prices on things, and he's got a new role of COO for North America. It sounds like they're trying to put out as many fires, trying to get dealers back on their side, trying to get the unions back on their side. Hopefully we'll be seeing a lot of changes that are positive. It can only go up from here. Can't get any worse. So keep that in mind. But it's going to take some time. So anyways, click that subscribe button. I'll see you in the next video. And make sure to tune in to Mopar Insiders for the latest Mopar news and information and rumors.